We are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sage Turner, Chair of the Housing and Community Development Committee, and I'd like to welcome you to the November 27, 2023 remote meeting. Si hablas español, puedes ingresar a nuestro sitio web y encontrar una agenda en español y puedes ver nuestra reunión en YouTube con traducción automática. All council members and staff are participating virtually. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda out loud. We're streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front of the city's page website. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by calling 855-925-2801 and using meeting code 9791. For today's meeting, we also have the option for people to call in and comment live during the meeting. To do so, you'll use the same number, that's 855-925-2801 and meeting code 9791. Your phone will be muted, and at that point, you will need to hit *3 to enter the speaker queue. That's *3. I'm going to go through and do a roll call for all committee members and staff who are participating virtually. As I call your name, if you could come off mute and say a quick hello. Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good afternoon.
Councilwoman Shanika Smith.
Good afternoon.
Assistant City Manager Rachel Wood.
Good afternoon.
Community and Economic Development Director Nikki Reed.
Hello, everyone.
Community Development Manager Dennis Newbern.
Good afternoon.
Community Development Analyst Dana Alley. Dana with us. Affordable Housing Officer Sasha Bertinsky.
Good afternoon.
I love how strong and large our housing staff is getting. Welcome, everybody, and I hope you had a great holiday. We have a lot on our agenda today, so I'm going to start us off with what we always do first, which is the approval of the minutes from October 17th. Any questions, comments, or a motion?
I move that the minutes be accepted as presented.
Second.
Great, and because we are virtual, we always do a roll call vote. So Councilwoman Mosley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Smith?
Aye.
Myself, Sage, aye. So the minutes are approved. We're going to move right on to update number 2, which is an update on CDBG and home application process. And Dennis Newbern is going to give us a little bit of an update. Go ahead, Dennis. Thank you. Dennis, I think you might. There you go.
Good afternoon. As you all are aware, this time of year, we are very heavily engaged for the next couple of months in the annual application process for the Community Development Block Grant Program. And I'm happy to say that once again, we're ready to do it. But this year, we're going to do a few things a little bit differently, largely because we have new software that we're introducing for the first time. So if you'll switch slides, the next one, I'll do an overview of what's going to be going on, and we can go from there. As I just said a few moments ago, there will be a few revisions from the previous year. These revisions will include a new online application platform. We'll make some changes with regards to audit requirements that organizations wishing to seek out funds for will need to do a little bit differently. We'll make a few modifications to the application process and the timeline. There will be more public meetings than we've had in previous years to give the general public the opportunity, as well as organizations wishing to apply for funds, the opportunity to understand fully what's required in terms of community development block grant participation. And we'll also be introducing technical assistance as part of the public meetings for the purpose of showing folks how to use the new software that we'll be introducing. We've done this in the idea of trying to lower some of the requirements that have been associated in past years with the hope that we have a broader cross-section of applicants that will apply for funding this year. Next slide. So from a background standpoint, as you all are aware, we are an entitlement community, so we have a direct funding relationship with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and HUD. As such, all the activities that are undertaken every year have to be something that involves the improvement of housing, creation of a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities, principally for persons with low to moderate income. That has not changed. Those requirements are basically the mainstay of the block grant program. As in previous years, this will not change 501c3 organizations or C4 organizations, but not individuals. For-profit organizations are also eligible to apply for community development funding, as well as faith-based organizations, as long as the funds are not being used for religious purposes. Next slide. The new software that I've been alluding to, its name is Neighborly. Neighborly has been around for a few years, and I'm very happy that the city of Asheville has procured this software. Lori Moore and Lori Moore is our coordinator, and she's new to the city. She and I attended a training this morning, and this software is simple enough for me to completely understand it and explain it to others. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. The beauty of this software in terms of transparency is what it will allow all of us, it will allow the committee to actually see the applications. It will allow the administration to see the applications that come through and to understand how we evaluate, and also for the community to understand how you as the committee also play a very important role in the evaluation of applications too. So we're very excited about this software, and we think that once we show you all how to use that, you too will be very excited about it as well. Next slide. Some of the things that we've changed from previous years include this one thing I'm getting ready to talk about. We have always made it a requirement that an organizations had to have a financial audit. We have changed this a little bit. In this particular category, you can see that for organizations that are asking for less than $25,000 in CDBG funds, and this is primarily for public services activities, they would be allowed to submit unaudited financial statements, or basically a compilation. If you're asking for more than $25,000 in CDBG funds for an activity, and I should add that both of these things involve public services activities. If you're asking for more than $25,000, you would be required to submit a full-blown independent financial audit for the last 2 years. We're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, we know that there are some organizations out there that have been doing the nonprofit world for a little while, but haven't gotten to the level of receipts or the level of sophistication, or frankly, even the ability to afford to have a full-blown audit. That shouldn't preclude them from applying from CDBG funds. And so we thought that making this change would allow the opportunity for some organizations that have not been able to participate in the process in the past to finally be able to experience applying for CDBG funds. Next slide. The second change that we're making is that in previous years, and from what I've looked at in prior years, I should say, the application process, at least the part that involved the committee, involved each of the applicants submitting to presentations before the full committee. This year, we are proposing something entirely different. This year, we are asking for organizations to submit with their application a video. The video will be not to exceed 3 minutes, and the video will come with instructions on our end, which will direct the applicants to tell us information that is not necessarily contained in the application. That will help you to understand as committee members what they're applying for. And then on the back end, we still would reserve the right, if you so choose, to have organizations actually do a physical presentation. I think in terms of efficiencies, it will allow you all to take a look at the applications in a different light, because one, you'll actually get to see them physically, and two, you'll get to know about the information that the agencies have submitted for every single application that they've submitted privately, as opposed to having the organizations do it publicly. I think that, and this is something that I've done in a few other cities, and I've found that it has worked very well in terms of maximizing your time as committee members. It helps the organizations in terms of trying to help message what they're asking for. It helps them to develop a message in such a way that everyone is able to understand what they're asking for. So this is something new that we'll be doing, and it will be a requirement for every organization that's seeking CDBG funding from us. Next slide. There will be 3 meetings, and I, as well as other members of our team, are available on demand at any time prior to the opening of the application process. The application process will open on January 3rd at 12:01 a.m. and it will close on January 26th at 2:00 p.m. There will be 3 public meetings that will be the first one on Thursday, this coming Thursday, at the Grant Southside Center. We will discuss the application process, and then we will also discuss the software, how it's to be used, so forth and so on. So these 3 meetings are designed as outreach efforts to kind of get the word out about what we're doing, but also to provide information and guidance with respect to completing the application process. And as I said a few moments ago, I am available on demand, clear until the time the application process opens. So if you have groups that you think that we need to see, if you want to have a conversation about the process, we are available to provide information. Next slide. So the application process tentatively will work this way. The firm dates will be the application process opens on January 3rd at midnight or a.m., 12:01 a.m. It closes on January 26th. At that point, all of the applications that are considered to be responsive to what we're asking for will be reviewed for eligibility. After that process is over, the applications will be provided to this committee to review, and you will have a very special review process as a committee or individuals on the committee too. At the conclusion of that process, the final reviewer is me, and I will be looking for eligibility as well as budget. From that point, I will provide recommendations to the department director and the city manager, and they in turn will provide recommendations back to me as to a recommendation back for funding purposes. This will all take place between February and March. In April, we began a 6-week public comment period about the activities that have been recommended for funding, and the process concludes in May when we come to full council and ask for a resolution authorizing the city manager to file for federal funding. So for the next 6 months, the next 7 months actually, we're going to be very heavily engaged in this application process. As you all are aware, it is not new. We're using new software, but I can emphasize the importance of if there are organizations that have questions, we are available to be dispatched to answer questions. I am hopeful that as we go forward with this, that we have a lot of organizations that will apply for funding. There's not a large amount of money available, and at this time, I'm based upon what's happening in the Congress, we have no idea what our budget is going to be. So our application advertised budget will be based upon what we have received this year. When we find out what the actual dollar amount is, it may be necessary to make adjustments, but right now, we're going to go with the entitlement amount that we received from this current year that we're in right now. Next slide. So again, key takeaways, there are a few revisions that I've discussed, relaxing the rule with respect to audit, the inclusion of the videos, the public meetings that we have to, that we're having, and of course the software Neighborly that we are using for the first time. With the idea of all of these changes will be to lower application barriers from the previous years and to also invite a broader cross-section of agencies to apply for our funding. Our funding, again, is for nonprofit organizations, be it 501c3 or C4. For-profit entities can apply, but individuals cannot apply. With that in mind, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dennis. Councilwoman, any questions? No? Okay. I just had one. The internal scorecard that staff use, and I guess it looked like in February, does that ever need input? Is that ever anything we should look at?
You're welcome to look at it, but it will be in an entirely technical document. It will be, if it's a public services activities example, how many widgets are being served, what was the level of communication like with the general public, so forth and so on. Happy to share that with you. And
Is that-
also, go ahead.
Sorry. Is that a HUD score sheet or something we make up?
We will make it up, but it will be all based upon HUD requirements.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Oh, one more question. If someone doesn't make it past that scorecard initial review, do we still hear about that applicant?
You will not. They will be deemed ineligible, and you will not hear about them. You will only hear about the ones that go forward marked as eligible.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Dennis? All right. Thank you. And for those of you listening in, we are done with item number 2 on our agenda. We're going to move on to item number 3, which is the Housing Trust Fund Policy and Application Process Update. And just, Councilwoman, so you know, at the end of this, we are looking for a motion or some action on moving to council. Go ahead, Sasha.
Thank you. Good afternoon, HCD members. I'm Sasha Vertunsky, as you know, Affordable Housing Officer. Next. And I'm here to present some minor tweaks really to our Housing Trust Fund. They're substantial enough that you do need to review them and approve them. So first, some key takeaways. Our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee has made some recommendations to revising this policy. Staff took those recommendations and evaluated them, and we revised them a little bit and are presenting those today. There's a few substantive changes along with a number of cleanups to the policy. And AHAC made some recommendations for changes to the scoring rubric, but we just have not had enough time to test and evaluate those potential revisions. Next. So just quickly, some background about the Housing Trust Fund. It was established by City Council in 2000. The City Council last updated this policy last year. Generally, for the last 5 to 10 years, the city has allocated about $500,000 from our general fund budget into the Housing Trust Fund. And between 2001 and 2019, the Housing Trust Fund has loaned approximately $15 million and produced around 1,300 units. And in our last cycle, City Council allocated about $4.4 million towards the construction of 239 units. Next. So just wrapping this into our background, I'm not doing a separate presentation on this, but wanted to let you know we will be putting out the call for this cycle of application December 15th. We're planning on closing that cycle around January 31st. That is keeping it in line with the Buncombe County's process. Buncombe County's ending their cycle a little bit earlier, or their deadline's around January 26th, I believe. We are planning on initial review by this committee in March, and then final recommendations in April, and then they would go to City Council in April for final funding decisions. And so that's in line both with the county process, but also in line with the low-income housing tax credit process that folks are often going through. So there's approximately $3.3 million from my calculations in the Housing Trust Fund for next cycle. Next. So just to try to summarize these in kind of some bigger chunks, they met in November. They have also, AHAC met in November to vote on recommendations. They had been considering them for like a month or two before that. They wanted to see revised priorities for the use of Housing Trust Fund dollars for more units, deeper affordability, accepting vouchers, and longer affordability periods. They worked on that separate scoring, as I said before, and they also updated language and organization of content to help with the policy's clarity. Next. So I put this into a table because I thought it was a little more digestible. So for the priorities, which are at the top of the policy, AHAC recommended changing the wording for that to make them general priorities. They eliminated a few, I think. Staff kept one or two of those in there. We generally agreed with AHAC's recommendation. It's a longer list of priorities, but it captures our city goals and all the complex things we're trying to do. For eligible uses, they requested to allow offsite infrastructure improvements as an eligible expense. Staff is recommending allowing offsite infrastructure improvements if they can demonstrate that they're only benefiting the affordable development. And why we're doing this is, or why we're recommending that, is to ensure that our city funds are going directly to the development and not unrelated outside projects. For affordability, they added a definition for affordability period for down payment assistance, and staff agreed with that and added some clarity to the policy. They did not make recommendations around loan terms. Staff is recommending changing the maximum loan amount from 10% of the total development cost to 10% of total development cost per affordable unit, which matches us with the county's policy. And it also helps us really analyze, if it's a mixed income project, that we're really focused on loaning money to the affordable unit part. So I feel like it tightens it up a little bit. Next. For underwriting and post-closing, there's several pages of the policy which really are procedural and operational, and it just didn't make sense to me that they're in the policy. They will be moved to a separate operational document that will be available to anyone, but it just makes the policy clear and it's more concise. And then lastly, for scoring, AHAC had some general recommendations about increasing the importance of affordability levels. They had some language around like unlimited points for certain things, which really made it harder to analyze and tended to favor really big projects, which may be fine. I think, we're generally okay with the spirit of the recommendations. We just need more time to assess those points recommendations. And since scoring is only one tool, it's not kind of a make or break thing for our projects. We would rather take the time to do it right if we're going to use it and make it more meaningful. So, and that next, Katie, sorry. So just really quickly, some good things about what we're doing here is we've got more clarified policies that will help applicants and decision makers with the whole process. Changing the loan terms helps fund only affordable units. And the only con was more time needed to assess the scoring rubric. I will say I didn't put this in the table because it wasn't super big, but they did make some changes to the fair housing section and renamed it fair housing and strengthened it a little bit too. I should probably add that to the table for council. And we were in agreement with that, so. Next. So just really quick, here's our steps for this review. We're here with you today, and then we'll be taking this to the December 12th council so that we're ready to open up applications on the 15th. Next. So we're recommending approval of the policy changes that are outlined in the document and recommend that you all recommend to council that it be approved. Next. And back to our key takeaways. Again, some substantive changes and a lot of cleanups being made to this document. And some changes around some wording of fair housing and our loan terms for making sure we're funding affordable units. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Sasha. I know I would appreciate seeing that fair housing language in the council when it gets to council, so please do include that. I only have one question. Councilwoman, do you have questions before I propose my question?
No, I've seen it before, so I'm good.
Okay. This is kind of random. I don't think you'll have the answer today, but over the course of talking about updating our policies and kind of watching what we've reviewed in recent years, one of the things that comes up about the HTF that has always kind of left some questions for me is the replenishing loan versus doing grants versus doing deferred payments and the payback and stuff. And so something hit me when you said between 2001 and 2019, we had allocated about $15 million and produced about 1,300 units. I would be curious, and I hope this is something easy to come by. I'd be curious to know what amount in dollars has actually come back to the city in interest or payback or something. I'm wondering because I wonder if my concerns are really not necessary. You know, if of the 15 million, it's like $100,000, maybe I'm overly worried for nothing. So that context might help me in the future. But other than that, I think these changes are great. I love the idea of the smaller amount for not going through an audit, because an audit is an enormous thing. In some cases, costs as much as $25,000. So, you know, if you're an organization that isn't required to do that, you can still apply. I think that's helpful. Oh, I'm confused too. I'm so sorry. Yeah, sorry. I confused that with CDBG before. I don't think I'm fully back from the holiday. Sorry. Okay. Any other questions for Sasha? I think that covered mine. No. Okay. Well, gosh, I thought this was going to be a big item, but it sounds like we're going to move right through it. We do need a motion to move this forward to council. So, Councilwoman, if anyone would like to make a motion.
I make a motion I move to recommend that the Asheville City Council approve the revised Housing Trust Fund policy.
Second.
Okay. And because we're virtual, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smith.
Aye.
And myself, aye. So that will move on to council for our December meeting. And that concludes item number 3 on our agenda today for those of you listening at home. We have 2 more items. Item number 4 is a revised Housing Trust Fund loan request from Fairhaven Summit, a group that has come before. We will need action on this item to move it forward to council. Sasha, are you presenting that? Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
I am. Thank you. Yes. So Commonwealth Development has submitted a revised request for an additional funding. And we are, since they are a funded project, we don't always normally do this, but we felt good about taking this forward to you all because we haven't closed on this loan yet, and it's still on the docket. Next. First, a few key takeaways. This project was previously funded as a part of our last Housing Trust Fund cycle and approved at $500,000 last April. This, as you'll maybe recall, this is a 77-unit project with a wide variety of mixed incomes. It is a low-income housing tax credit project. So all the incomes of all the residents have to average 60% AMI and below. They are requesting an additional $475,000 as a max for this project. There have been, between increased interest rates and also, frankly, some construction budget changes that happened after they were at council last time. They need some additional funds. We are recommending approval of this to both HCD and City Council, and this will be coming to council on December 12th. Next. So I won't review all these things if I've already said them, but again, this is down in South Asheville on Sweeten Creek Road. With the additional $475,000 request, that would bring the total city HTF contribution to $975,000. They have said if this that this request could be reduced to $375,000 if the U.S. 10-year yield, Treasury yield, is below its current 4.9% rate at the time of their rate lock. So and Sean Brady is here with Commonwealth, and he can answer questions if you have them. So when we were discussing this request, I asked them to, please tell us the absolute max so that we're not coming back. So we're trying to tie this to something very real. So if interest rates go down a bit, that they won't need quite as much money. The loan terms would be pretty much the same as what we agreed to last April, 20-year maturity. Payments are deferred to some degree, but with 2% interest compounding. So At the end of the day, 1.23 million would be due. Next. And this is, you've seen this before. This is really just showing that there's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and in each of those bedroom categories, there's a mix of incomes. There are project-based vouchers for those at 30% AMI and below. They're also using key funds, which help serve families with disabilities, or someone in their family has disabilities, for 50% AMI and below. So this is one of the great pieces of this project. Next. These are their financing sources. They have a first mortgage, and then Buncombe County has funded this project at 1.235 million. We would be at 975 as a max. They do have some home dollars. And then there's, the low-income housing tax credit equity, a refund rate lock deposit, and they're also deferring a substantial part of their developer fee to help fund this project. And that deferred developer fee actually has gone up substantially since their last application. Next. So from staff's point of view, there's a lot of great things about this project. 30 years of affordability, 77 affordable units. The total requested subsidy is $12,662 per unit, which is pretty low. And we are still loaning less than Buncombe County in this scenario. Our loan would be less than 5% of the total development cost, helping to leverage other sources. And it aligns with the Asheville Consolidated Plan goal of prioritizing rental assistance for those at 60% AMI and below. The only concern, the only con or concern is that it's a little bit out of cycle with the other requests. They do need to close on this loan in the next few months to be compliant with the tax credit, keep their tax credit. So waiting until the next cycle really wasn't a realistic goal. Next. And so we are recommending this for these reasons. Things I've said before, relatively low per capita subsidy, and pretty low, portion of the entire development cost. Next. So we're back to the key takeaways, just summarizing all the things I've said, but I'm happy to take any questions you have. And again, Sean Brady is here with Commonwealth, and he could answer questions as well.
Thank you, Sasha. Councilwoman, any questions for staff or for Sean? Thanks for being here, Sean. Quick question. So back at the sources, I can't remember, is Buncombe County also a loan?
It is. Mm-hmm.
It is a loan. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's a cash flow repayment loan, similar to the Housing Trust Fund terms.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Gosh, I hate to see how the rate is impacting the project so much. We had just talked in a previous agenda item about our Housing Trust Fund policy, which is, a fund that gives low interest money to these projects. And all I can think is, gosh, we need like a federal program like that, because this is crazy that you're watching interest rates.
That is the main driver that has pushed us to ask for this additional funding request. All of our permanent interest rates are indexed off of the 10-year Treasury. And so when we submitted our previous funding request, the 10-year Treasury was about 3.5%. It jumped up to 4.9% when we submitted this funding request. It's fallen back down, though, to about 4.4%. But, just for perspective, every 0.1% in the 10-year Treasury, when it goes up, is $100,000 less in loan proceeds.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a really big problem. But as Sasha said, we were hoping that we could close by the end of December, but our investor has a hard cutoff date of December 15th. So we're looking at January for our closing date. But we do need to try to get all of our sources in line because we do have a placed in service deadline where we've got to have the project complete and CO'd by the end of 2025. So we do need to get moving, and we're about out of time. But we think, interest rates have kind of fallen. They've gone up and fallen down a little bit, and they seem to be kind of holding around there. So we're hopeful that things will stay in place. But our intent is to not ask for any more money than we need. And so that's why we wanted to set a ceiling and then work in an open book fashion with city staff as we, lock our interest rate, finalize construction pricing. I'm optimistic right now that the 475, the actual amount that we'll need will be less than that.
Okay, great. And interesting and unfortunate all at once, right? But
It's been really difficult. So many things are changing so quickly. Our investor also increased their credit price by 2 pennies, which is about 200,000 in extra equity that we were able to get in. So that helped lower our gap, but there's only so much they can. Our equity pricing is well above market now. They're at 93 cents, and it's low 80s now per credit. So that's we're very thankful to them. That's Bank of America. It's been really challenging. It's really, there's a lot of things that are changing very, very quickly. But thankfully we're right here at the end, and I think we'll be able to get it across the finish line.
That's great. Okay, we hope so. It's a great project.
Thank you.
Thank you for continuing to, try and get it across the finish line.
Thank you. Thank you for the consideration, your support. It's really helping out a lot. So thank you.
Councilwoman, any questions or concerns, or if not, perhaps a motion?
I move to recommend that the Asheville City Council approve Commonwealth Development's request for an additional $475,000 in funds for a total housing trust fund loan of $975,000 to construct 77 affordable apartments.
Second.
I think that was a motion to recommend, not that council approve. I think I heard that right, but the intent is there. So we'll do it. I thought you said maybe just that council approves, but maybe I missed the first part. Okay, so we have to do a roll call vote. Councilwoman Mosley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Smith.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Okay, so this will move on to City Council, also at our December meeting. And that concludes, we're moving faster than I thought. That concludes item number 4. And we're moving right on to item number 5, which is a Luigi application. Yeah, thank you, Sean, for being here. And I guess we'll see you at council in December.
I'll be there.
So we're moving on to item number 5, the Luigi application for 115 Fairview Road. Again, Sasha will be presenting this, and we will need action on this item as well.
Thank you. Yes, so we have a land use incentive grant request for 115 Fairview Road. Next, Katie. This is a conditional zoning project, so it will also be following the same review schedule for you all. Both the Luigi and the conditional zoning will be at your December 12th meeting. This project is at the screen door location on Fairview Road, so not far out of Biltmore Village. The plan is for a 281 unit apartment complex. 20% of the units would be affordable for households at 80% AMI for 20 years. The project is also bringing other benefits, including rental assistance, acceptance of rental assistance, housing for a person on the homeless by name list, energy efficiency and green building certification, and universal design. So this project qualifies for 16 years of taxes paid if you strictly look at the matrix, and the developer is requesting a 21-year grant due to additional construction expenses and the location. Next. So this is a purely residential project. It's on 8.25 acres of land on Fairview Road. They are estimating a taxable value after construction around close to $80 million, and estimated construction costs is around $60 million or $59 million, with a total project cost at $78 million. Next. So really quickly, this is the unit breakdown for their project. The affordable units, a little over, well, about maybe 2/3 of them are in studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, have a fair number, and then a 3-bedroom unit for 57 units total. Next. And this is the location right there off of Fairview Road. So it is almost, you can, at the very top of that map, you can see the beginning of District Drive. So it's across from the District Apartments on Fairview Road. Next.
Is this what we keep referring to as screen door?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So here quickly is just a rendering that I pulled out of their planning application from Fairview Road. Next. And here is a summary of their points. So for folks who don't know, I know you all know this, but you know, the baseline to get into this program is 20% of units being affordable for 20 years to households at or below 80% AMI, and that gets you 20 points. And so 5 points is a year, so that's 4 years. Accepting all, you know, different kinds of rental assistance is an additional 10 points. Housing someone from the homeless by name list is 5 points. Locational efficiency, so a half mile from transportation amenities is 5 points. And locational efficiency, 1 mile from a job center is another 5 points. The Energy Star is 5 points. Universal design is 10 points for 20% of the units. And then building in a non-qualified census tract is another 10 points. So that's a total of 16 years or 80 points. Next. So the developer is requesting additional 15 points for locational efficiency because there are multiple bus lines near the location, convenience stores, and a 1.2 mile walk from the high school and about 1.4 mile walk from Oakley. Staff isn't recommending this because the policy doesn't really provide for, you know, adding points for multiple transportation amenities. Similarly, you know, of all the projects I've reviewed in the last year or and a half or so, it's not kind of a menu of every single amenity gets an additional 5 points. The second request is they are requesting additional 2 years due to the presence of asbestos resulting in an additional $500,000 cost. So the Luigi policy does allow developers to request additional years due to site-specific barriers or costs. So at first I didn't realize we had that in our policy, but we do. So they're requesting 21 years or 105 points, and staff is recommending 18 years of a total grant in response to the additional site costs. Next. The current, just some specifics about the financials of this project. The current parcel has a value of 1.6 million, and they are paying taxes of around $6,400 a year. Under this estimated tax value of about 80 million post completion, the annual city property tax would be 321,000 or 322 per year. So, and then the difference, we only talk about the increase in the tax value is approximately 315,500 and a year. And that exceeds the policy cap of $80,000 per unit for the 57 units. The developers acknowledged that policy cap, and so they're really asking for the maximum subsidy of $80,000 per unit. So for an 18-year period, the city would pay $250,000 up to, I should say, really up to $250,000, $3,000 annually for the incentive funding for a total grant of $4.56 million. Next. So staff is recommending this at this point, and for 18 years and a total grant of $4.56 million. This application will be reviewed by the Policy, Finance, and HR Committee on December 12th, which is the same day as City Council. Because of scheduling issues in the audit process, this was the way we could make it work. They've been ready, this project's been ready to come forward for a month or two already. So next. So once again, this is a Louise request for 115 Fairview, 281 apartments. And they qualify for 16 years by the strict reading of the policy, but we are recommending 18 years. And that concludes my presentation. And sorry, I should also say Bo McIntosh is here with Catalyst Capital Partners and Derek Allen as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Bo, for being here. Councilwomen, any questions for staff or the developer applicant? Sasha, can you scroll up to the unit breakdown for me? A few slides back. Question about procedure here. I'm getting more and more concerned about 3 bedrooms. So, and I'm wondering in the process, this is just what they send to us, right? Like they've already decided they're going to build 14 3-bedroom units and hey, maybe they'll commit one to being affordable, right? We're not influencing this at all, right?
This is a non-regulatory, non-statutory thing. You totally have the power. This is a grant. I think you all have the power to ask for more.
But it's okay. I mean, I know all of our studies point to this. You guys have heard me say this over and over. All our studies point to the 1 bedroom. I just get increasingly concerned that we're not seeing a lot of family size units. So just pointing it out here, I mean, there will be more than the 1 unit, but they will all be market rate. Just an observation, really, more than anything. Have we ever seen an applicant ask for additional points because of location or anything? I don't know that I've ever heard that.
Not that I'm aware of. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but
okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. I'm just curious. Okay. I don't have any more questions. I always like to see a deeper affordability. At least there was voucher acceptance, right?
Yes. I mean, yes, you have to accept. That's part of the baseline.
So 57 units and half will accept vouchers?
Right. So we always round up. So 29 units.
Okay. Great. So those 29 units will be at a lower AMI. Okay.
After that number again, so I can see that number. I guess back.
29.
So yeah, so 57 affordable units. So half we calculate 1 up, or we round up. So 29 units will have to accept vouchers. It doesn't, it's not a guaranteed set aside.
It's not a set aside.
No.
Okay. And so this language has come back to council a couple times, different ways, like set aside here, set aside not there. So just, I'm bringing that up so we are aware ahead of our council meeting. I know we like to see the set asides. And then another note, I think there was a project that came to us that said they would commit to the set aside so long as a partner could create those voucher or those project-based vouchers, right? There was some concern that we may be creating too many project-based vouchers and that the housing authority may not be able to administer them all. So I guess we're seeing, does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Is that Project Aspire?
Yeah, I guess that's the first time I've seen it. So I wasn't sure, are we going to hit a place where we have said you need to accept vouchers and set aside, but there may not be any? Is that what we're getting to? Is that why we're going back to accepting?
Well, one thing we can do, and I'm looking at Janice virtually, but one thing we can do is put language in our agreements that if there's a set aside, let's say, for example, where they will hold that unit for up to, like, if it's 30 days or 60 days, and then if they really can't find anybody, and we can verify that's with the housing authority, that they can then release that unit. But then the next unit that becomes available would also, then you got to try again. So it's kind of, you have to be realistic, but at the same time, you're still pushing that goal forward.
I prefer that language. So at least there's the opportunity to set it aside. I wonder if we need to be talking with the housing authority about this on a larger basis, about if we're going to be creating any issues for them. But I would prefer that. So just a note for the developer before they come to council, I would like to see that set aside intention. If we can tie it to language like we did with Project Aspire, perhaps that works. Maybe someone can get that to them after this meeting. So
I guess my question would be, are you requiring that? Are you recommending that as a body for your vote? That's just my question.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I'm just speaking alone right now. So that's a personal preference. If the developer is actually with us and can hear that, I would love to see that by the time it comes to council. I don't know how my colleagues feel about it today. Okay. So then if there are no other questions or comments for this applicant, we can perhaps hear a motion.
I'm still trying to figure out where you are, Sage. Are you gonna make a motion?
Well,
How
I
about-
didn't kind of hear from y'all. I would like to see the set aside language, but I understand that we may be creating a problem for the applicant because they may come to a point when these units are built and there may not be vouchers for them to have. That's just a possible. It came up with the last project we reviewed. So we were able to write some language that said you will set aside these units, but should the time come that there are not actual users for these units with vouchers, then it's okay if you don't accept a voucher in this unit. Does that make sense?
Councilwoman Turner, this is Derek Allen. Thank you. Those are great points. Sasha, if you can shoot us that language, that'd be fine. I think we've done this before in other Luigi projects where you've got that language in, and after a period of time, if those aren't claimed, then it rolls over. So, you know, I think we can work with you on that, and we'll keep in touch with Sasha on getting that correct.
Okay, great. Did that help, Councilwoman Mosley?
It does. So is it the motion that is written?
I don't think so. We would have to add.
Will you make the motion? Why don't you
Sure.
make the motion?
Sure. I move to recommend approval of a motion. This is a lot of language. I recommend to City Council to approve the land use incentive grant application for Catalyst Capital Partners at 115 Fairview Road for 18 years, and a total grant of $4,560,000 with including language for set aside that someone's going to have to help me with those words. Janice, maybe what is, sorry, y'all, but set aside, but time.
Set aside, but with an allowance of set aside for a period of time, which it is hard to come out on the fly.
Yeah,
We have done this before. We have the language to set aside with language that allows.
Janice, let's just pause. So how about I'm going to make the motion as is written. We've heard from the attorney. By the time it gets to council, the language will be in there. Does that make it simpler? So we don't want to mess up here.
It does.
Okay,
I'm
so-
sorry. I'm not. I'm
It's
not
okay,
back
either
from my
was I.
vacation either.
Either was I. My brain's not quite there yet. Okay, so I am making a motion to recommend that City Council approve the land use incentive grant application for Catalyst Capital Partners at 115 Fairview Road for 18 years and a total grant of $4,560,000. Period.
Second.
Great. So roll call vote, and this is with the understanding that this language will be added by the time it comes to council. So, Councilwoman Mosley,
No.
because the language wasn't in there.
No, I'm at a place now because I was hoping we'd have after we made the motions, we could discuss it. In light of Thrive's presentation regarding the 80% AMI and its discriminatory effects, it's very difficult for me to vote to use taxpayer dollars to further that policy. So that explains my note at this point.
And I'm the same with the no vote, with the point that Councilwoman Mosley made, but also my children went to Oakley Elementary School, and there is a great need for more deeply affordable housing in that area. So it's not befitting for that area at this percentage of affordability.
You know, this family unit and adjacency to schools comes up a lot too. We saw it with a recent other application as well. So it sounds like that motion is not going to move forward to council. To the applicant, I don't know if you have any questions. Go ahead.
Are you a no also?
I'm not a no, but my position, because I understand what both of you are saying about the Thrive information. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of a disjointed connection to their data because it's so focused on the family size of 4. And so much of what we are not doing and have written these policies for focuses on the family size of 1 or 2. So I don't see that same disparity. I've asked them to come back with language or charts and data about the one bedroom to see if it is as bad a disparity. And I was told that it is somewhat as bad, but not, I just don't have all the information is my point. So I'm also alarmed by what they're finding in our policies. I just don't know that we're going to be able to fix it this way. But so I'm not a no vote today, but I respect that you all both are. With that being said, do we need to try and get a different motion to council, or is this just die here?
It doesn't. Well, council is still able to vote on it. It might very well be 4 at the, so it'll just be 2-1 no.
Okay. Now, are there any alternative motions that you would like to make? Okay. All right, so everyone's clear that motion did not pass. The item will continue on to council with a 2-1 nay vote from HCD. And that will be in December. Okay. I believe, let me get back to the agenda here. We got through all of those items fairly quickly. I'm impressed. That was the conclusion of item number 5, the last large item on our agenda. And all we have left is item number 6, which is public comment. Do we have anyone on the line? I think Katie's our helper today.
One moment, let me check. Yes, we do. Caller ending in 2127. Your line is now open.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Cassidy Moore, and I am a resident of the city of Asheville, and I'm the Government Relations and Grants Manager for Asheville Area Habitat for Humanity. I am calling today to express my support for policies that prevent source of income discrimination and increase rental assistance acceptance in government-funded or incentivized projects. According to the 2021 Western North Carolina Housing Needs Assessment completed by BOA National Research, 965 housing vouchers issued in Buncombe County go unused each year. Source of income discrimination plays a large role in compounding Asheville's affordable housing crisis. Research shows that rental assistance reduces homelessness, overcrowding, and housing instability, and gives people with lower incomes greater choice about where they live. These federal resources should be fully utilized to address our local affordable housing crisis. The updates to the Housing Trust Fund policy that you have recommended today for City Council consideration will help us get us closer to the goal of ensuring every single available housing voucher is put to use in our community. I'm really appreciative of the dialogue that you've had today around rental assistance acceptance and all the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Katie, do we have anyone else on the line?
Let me reload. One moment. No, we do not.
Okay, councilwomen and staff, that means we have reached the end. I appreciate everyone's time and welcome back from your holiday weekends. I hope your brains get back faster than mine and have a great rest of your day. See you soon.